Welcome to Taiwan Report News Brief, news, analysis, and context from Taichung, Taiwan. I'm Donovan Smith. All right, up today on the program, Taiwan is standing in support of Australian freedom wine, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. 2 airlines introduce boarding by facial recognition. Bureau of Labor Fund's Domestic Investment Division head has been arrested. And the TPP accuses the government of spending big on what it calls propaganda. But up first, headlines. Citing a recent surge in cases, the Central Epidemic Command Center has removed Hong Kong from its list of countries and regions from which business travelers can apply for shorter quarantine periods upon arrival in Taiwan. Taiwan will also temporarily suspend the entry of Indonesian migrant workers into Taiwan for 2 weeks starting December 4th for the same reason. It is expected to affect 1,350 Indonesians, including 300 to 400 manufacturing jobs, with most of the rest being domestic caregivers. The CECC also announced travelers who return to Taiwan within 3 days of their departure will be exempt from a new rule requiring international arrivals to present proof of a recent COVID-19 test. Taiwan's manufacturing activity expanded for the 5th consecutive month in November. The Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, for November rose 1.9 from a month earlier to 61.2, the largest expansion since February of 2017, while the Non-Manufacturing Index, or NMI, also rose 0.4 from a month earlier to 53.8, marking the 6th consecutive month of expansion. Any number above 50 indicates expansion. The Executive Yuan has drafted an organizational reform plan under which the National Palace Museum could be downgraded from an independent second-tier cabinet-level body to a third-tier body under the Ministry of Culture. The proposal drew strong opposition from the KMT, which denounced the proposal as politically motivated for the purpose of de-Sinization by the DPP. The government denies this. Taiwan is set to start issuing its newly designed passport on January 11th. It will more prominently feature the word Taiwan in English. The Republic of China is put in a tiny font in a circle around the national emblem. One user on Facebook suggested the government go further and get TSMC to etch the name on the passports using their latest technology. Taiwan will restrict the importation of products containing mercury from January 1st next year as part of an international agreement which aims to reduce mercury pollution, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. Premier Su Tseng-chang has vowed to speed up the replacement of the government's uncrewed aerial vehicles or drones, as more commonly known, after legislators raised concerns that more than 70% were made in China. The National Communications Commission Telecom Technology Center has found evidence that Chinese UAVs could pose an information security risk. Gun barrels purchased overseas to be mounted on prototypes of indigenous armored vehicles are scheduled to arrive in Taiwan in September next year, military officials told the Legislative Yuan. According to a source cited in the Taipei Times, Taiwan is not capable of building the 105mm assault gun and therefore needs to rely on overseas purchases. However, the barrel manufacturer has agreed to transfer key technologies for the gun barrel so that the 105mm assault guns can be produced locally. When Taiwan begins to mass produce the gun barrels, it should be able to reduce the recoil by 70%, the source said. The country of origin wasn't specified. Taiwan has opened a technical mission in the East African state of Somaliland, launching bilateral cooperation in healthcare, information and communications technology, and agriculture. Taiwan and Somaliland opened representative offices in each other's countries in August and September. Like Taiwan, in most countries, Somaliland is represented by a representative office due to a lack of formal diplomatic recognition. Taiwan and Brunei have signed a memorandum of understanding to promote the halal economy between the two sides. The MOU aims to foster cooperation in the halal industry, reduce technical barriers to trade, and facilitate bilateral relations. Taiwan has recently been trying to position itself as a good destination for Muslim tourists. Amid an ongoing dispute with Indonesia over fee payments, Taiwan is seeking to recruit migrant workers from a Southeast Asian nation that does not currently provide the country with foreign workers, according to the labor minister, but she didn't specify the country. She added that Taiwan hopes to sign a memorandum of understanding with the country next year and to be able to recruit migrant workers by 2022. The number of migrant workers in Taiwan was 701,240 in October, with 37.78% from Indonesia, 32.58% from Vietnam, 21.54 from the Philippines, and 8.09 from Thailand, according to the latest data from the Ministry of Labor. Officials, politicians, and diplomats from President Tsai Ing-wen on down are expressing support for Australian wines after Beijing slapped tariffs of up to 212% as part of an effort to get Australia to toe China's line. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs posted on Twitter, quote, "We stand in solidarity with Australia by serving freedom wine." The president said, quote, "Taiwan's government and peoples empathize with the same feeling of tremendous pressure that Australia faces. The government supports Australia and is mulling what measures are most appropriate to be taken to make the Australian people feel the warmth from Taiwan. I also personally support buying Australian wine to stand up to bullying from Beijing." The Australian office Taipei posted a message on Facebook expressing its gratitude, probably not directed at me personally. Taiwan's two major airlines have unveiled a facial recognition system that enables touchless boarding. EVA Air said it will expand the service to seating, checked-in luggage, security checks, and use of VIP lounges in the future. Under the program, passengers have the option of having their facial images taken at the boarding gates, which match their boarding pass information and biometric profiles stored at U.S. Customs and Border Protection. This is part of the U.S. Biometric Exit Program, which collects biometric information from travelers, which may limit it to U.S. routes. While undoubtedly convenient and helpful in controlling the spread of COVID-19, it does raise data security and privacy questions. It also takes all the fun out of being on the run from the law. The head of the Domestic Investment Division of the Ministry's Bureau of Labor Funds was on Friday detained on suspicion of accepting bribes to ask security brokers contracted by the Bureau to purchase certain stocks using ministry funds. The Bureau is the ministry's unit in charge of the labor pension, labor insurance, and employment insurance funds, as well as the funds related to occupational hazard protection and the disbursement of unpaid wages. The KMT caucus called on the ministry to report to the Legislative Yuan on its holdings and trading activity as soon as possible for the sake of the nation's workers. The report should include the traders involved in the handling of the ministry's three main funds, the external advisors it consults, the securities firms it works with, portfolio contents, and trading activity, it said. They are also asking for a full probe and questioned whether other officials were involved. KMT legislator Zheng Liwen said that despite the arrest, major questions about the case remain. The fund performed terribly in September despite a stock market rally fueled by U.S. monetary easing, she said. Quote, "What kind of investment portfolio would lose 74.9 billion NT when the broader market performs so well?" she asked. That's an excellent question. The stock market has been booming in the last few months, breaking record after record. The property market is also booming, and I've heard anecdotally that business people returning from China are buying up property in cash, which is something we haven't seen much of since the 1990s. The fund also performed very well last year under less booming conditions. So Zheng's questions are quite legitimate. This is the kind of oversight an opposition party is supposed to do rather than throwing around pig guts. If this scandal does spread, it could be a pretty serious blow to the DPP's claims of running a competent, clean government. If it doesn't spread, and this is merely one relatively low-ranking rogue actor, the political damage will likely be largely limited. The Taiwan People's Party Legislative Caucus has criticized the Executive Yuan for spending up to 103 million NT since 2017, creating, quote, propaganda to influence public opinion and for recruiting 9 people to create memes. They also said some of the slogans and memes contain content that contravenes administrative neutrality, and they were actually smear campaigns against opposition parties, several of which they claim were posted on Su's Facebook page. They also questioned the Executive Yuan's procurement process, as the successful bidders were the same few companies. To try and find some specific examples of what they were referring to as propaganda that contravenes administrative neutrality, I visited the TPP website and their Facebook page, but they provided no examples. Now, it is easy to imagine what they might be referring to, such as memes defending the safety of ractopamine-contained pork, which could be construed by the opposition as an attack on their position. And internationally, there are over 100 countries that do ban it, and it's not totally proven to be safe one way or the other, though hundreds of millions of Americans don't appear to be suffering any ill effects. There can be a fine line between promoting government policy to the public and that policy being a partisan, party-led effort. On the few companies successfully bidding, they may have a legitimate point here or not, depending on how much genuine competition there was in the bidding process. All right. Well, I was talking to you the last couple shows saying that last night Michael Turton and I would be recording a show. Well, we cracked open some beers, we kicked back, and we started doing the show. And after a while, realized that I am an idiot. I forgot to hit record. So we're going to try and record that show again next week. All right, be sure to hit like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you can afford it, please become a patron on Patreon. It's very important to us, means a lot, and really helps this project move forward.
This has been brought to you by the Taiwan Report. For more content like this, become our patron at report.tw.
哎呦，就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。